Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kev and today I want to talk about traveling with arthritis. So if you have arthritis and you have ever traveled, you will no doubt know that it can be a literally painful experience. But there are some things that you can do that I think can help, that have helped me. So today I want to kind of just run through some of those things. Before we get into that, just a reminder that my book, Strength Through Pain, is available on Amazon right now. So if you're interested in the stuff that I talk about in this channel, the book might be of interest to you. Anyway, let's get on with the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is the things you can do before you actually travel. Now, this will apply whether you're traveling for work, whether you're traveling for leisure, whether it's a short trip or long trip, whether it's a long distance you're traveling. I think this is relevant to any type of trip that you're taking. So the first and I think most obvious thing if you have arthritis is to get your medication together. So whatever medication you're on, if there's any kind of special travel arrangements you need, you might be traveling with needles, or those injector pens, you might need to keep things cool. Whatever it is, just get that stuff in order. Make sure you have your prescription filled and all that sort of stuff. Depending on what medication you are on, it might be prescription or it might just be over the counter, but get that stuff ready as well. So have some anti-inflammatories, have all of that sort of stuff ready, because you don't want to have, a really bad flare-up day where you can't go out and actually enjoy yourself when you're traveling, or if you're traveling for work that you can't actually do your job. So I think number one, just whatever your situation regarding medication is, just get that stuff in order. Next, I think you just want to generally be prepared. And I think it's really helpful to use a checklist here. So have a checklist that can include, the medication and stuff that you need to sort out. Pack your bags days before you leave. Check your baggage allowance, weigh your bags, check your passports, be early, right? Get to the airport like 2 hours before you need to. What we're trying to do here, and the whole point in this, is that we're trying to reduce stress, right? And if you have any sort of inflammatory arthritis, you've probably realized at this point that when you are stressed, your symptoms get worse, right? For me, with psoriatic arthritis, when I'm stressed, I notice my skin gets worse, the psoriasis gets worse, and the arthritis symptoms get worse. So that's just something to be aware of. Like, why add stress? Just be early, be prepared, take the extra time, and eliminate kind of stress from the equation so that you're only dealing with all of the other triggers of your arthritis, but we can do something about stress. Now, once you're kind of prepared, and you've done all that stuff, and to be honest, all that stuff is just generally good travel advice, whether or not you've got arthritis. Just be ready, be early, don't be stressed about it. But during the actual travel, so at the airport, I think it's really helpful to actually walk around and even stretch, right? If you're gonna sit on an airplane for the next 6 or 8 hours or 4 or 5 hours, whatever it is, you're gonna be fairly immobile, even if you're getting up and walking around the plane, which you should do as well. You're going to be pretty immobile, so there's no point in like rushing to the gate and then just sitting down and waiting for an hour or 2 hours. Or if your plane is delayed, why sit there and wait for hours to get on the plane to sit for more hours, right? So get up and walk around, get up and stretch. I remember I was in LAX a few years ago and my flight back to Ireland was delayed by, I don't know, it was an hour or two or something like that. And everyone was just sitting there and I was kind of, it was hard for me to understand why, even if you don't have arthritis, you would just sit there knowing that you're going to be sitting immobile on a plane for the next, I think that was an 8 or 9 hour flight. Get up and walk around the airport, stop and stretch. Don't worry, I've sat there and stretched and done squats and stuff in the airport, and people might look at you, but so what? Just do it. Move as much as you can, because you will be relatively immobile, right? So that is at the airport. I think it's a good idea just to move around and not sit down and not be immobile, because you're going to be immobile during your flight. Then when you're actually at your destination, I think all of the things I've talked about in these videos, all of the things I talk about in the book, plug, walk, move, eat, sleep, lift, breathe, all of those things I think are still really, really relevant, but obviously you're going to have to change things up. Now, I think you should try and, generally when you're on holiday, you probably walk a bit anyway. If you're traveling for work, I think it's worth making the effort to walk, whether it's walking to an office or getting up and just walking, around the block, whatever it is. In the morning, make some time to walk, moving, stretching, all those sorts of things. I think it's important to try and keep that in your routine. If you can, getting to a gym, especially when you first arrive, when you're jet lagged, getting a reasonably tough workout in, if you can, is actually a really great way to deal with jet lag. So that's something that's worth doing as well, because the faster you get your sleep in order, the better you're going to feel, right? Because we know that disrupted sleep can be hugely problematic in terms of how you're feeling your symptoms of arthritis. If you're on like a sun holiday, a leisure holiday, swimming is great. I think swim as much as you can. Even if it's just getting into the pool and walking around in the pool, I think that's a really, really good thing to do. And I mean, obviously, I'm talking about maintaining all of your self management routines, but enjoy yourself, right? I think try and relax, keep the stress low, but at the same time, think about the food that you're eating and drinking throughout the day. So, for example, if you've got breakfast included in your hotel stay and you really want to take advantage of that and go nuts at breakfast, go for it. Go nuts at breakfast, enjoy it, but maybe eat a smaller dinner in the evening, right? Maybe try not to eat too late at night so that when you get to the breakfast, you're actually good and hungry. And maybe if you're doing that at breakfast, maybe you're skipping lunch or having a lighter lunch, whatever it is. But I think just be cognizant of the fact that like overeating and eating certain types of foods might exacerbate things. So I wouldn't say don't eat that stuff. Like if you're on holidays, enjoy yourself, but you can try eating less or having your, let's say, focus meals where it's like, all right, I'm going to go nuts at that meal because that's the meal I'm looking forward to, whether it's eating out for dinner or, like I said, the breakfast. But just try and compensate for that, right? Like if I'm going to go nuts here, maybe don't go so nuts over there. And again, just be mindful. I think it's important to just not forget about your self-management and your self-management routines while you're away. You just need to adapt them. And I think being able to adapt these things is really, really important. It's a really great skill to learn. It's like maybe you don't have access to a gym, right? But maybe you can do some body weight stuff. You can't go out and walk for whatever reason. Maybe you can walk around the hotel, whatever it is, being able to adapt. Maybe you do some yoga in the hotel room instead of walking, whatever it is, right? I think it's kind of important to be able to adapt. One thing that actually travels really, really well is meditation and breath work. So just taking some time to de-stress and relax and do that side of things, I think can be really, really helpful. Another thing to be aware of, and something that I try to focus on a bit, is what is the impact, positive or negative, that your surroundings are having on your symptoms. So, for example, I was in Thailand recently and I noticed that actually my symptoms weren't feeling too bad and it was really hot, it was really sunny. So maybe the heat, maybe the vitamin D was actually helping me. Maybe now that I'm back in freezing cold Ireland, I should spend more time in saunas or something like that because the heat has actually been good for my body, right? So I think be aware of how the change in environment has actually affected your body. And finally, afterwards, and this is kind of what made me want to create this video. After I got back from Thailand, I think it took me probably about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, where I was actually feeling pretty awful. Like the last few weeks, they've been pretty rough in terms of my symptoms. My hip was sore, my back was sore. I was feeling a lot of fatigue, feeling very run down. Basically, when you think about traveling back from Thailand, there's the jet lag, there's the disruption of sleep. There was like a 20 degrees Celsius drop in temperature. Um, all of these things, the change in diet, all of these things are obviously going to have an impact, regardless of whether or not you've got an inflammatory condition. So I was really feeling that for the last 3 weeks. So when I was thinking about, and actually, a couple of years ago, I went and worked in Atlanta for a couple of weeks, and um, I don't know if you've ever been to Atlanta, but if you're a vegetarian in Atlanta, it's not too easy. It's a very meaty kind of city, as at least that's what I found. Um, so I was living there for 2 weeks working, and when I got back, it took me like 6 weeks to get back in order, right? And I think this is actually typical of when I go to America. Like, America, I don't know what's up with your food, but whenever I go and whenever I'm eating your food, I just feel awful. So it took me about 6 weeks to actually recover from that. So after the travel, I think is actually a real critical point because I've found, I don't know about you, but I've found that while I'm traveling, I think I'm so busy and moving around and doing some stuff and trying to enjoy whatever I'm doing that, or if it's work, I'm busy with work. I don't really, I don't know, I don't seem to notice the symptoms as much. But when I get home, that's where it seems to hit. Like um, it's almost like the symptoms are kind of building up in the background and they hit me when I get home. So I think for when you get home, be realistic, like understand how much disruption your body has after going through, right? If you've got routines and self-management routines that you're doing, huge, huge disruptions. So I think be realistic and just accept the fact that when you get home, there's going to be some impact there, right? So just be aware and be ready for it, right? Don't get home and be, disappointed and let it get you down in a hole. You've come back from your holiday, you've had a good time, and now you're feeling like crap. It's like, no, we're ready for this. We're aware. We know this is going to happen, right? And the way you can deal with it, I think, is get back into your self-management routines as quickly as you can. I know we have a tendency to kind of want to drag out our holidays, right? You get back from a holiday and you want to act like you're still on holiday for another few weeks. But I think the quicker you get back into routines, the better off, right? And you can still try and relax and act like you're still on your holiday, but get your routines in order. I think that should be a high priority thing that's on your to-do list. And then lastly, which is part of it, have your flare up protocol ready to go. I'll put a link somewhere here. I talked about flare protocol a couple of videos ago, and I think just having that ready to go and even just kicking straight into it. Now, I didn't do that when I got back from Thailand, and I kind of wish I had because I felt like I just dragged it out for 3 weeks. This past week, I've had my flare protocol in like full action, super disciplined with my diet, and everything else, all of my self-management routines, and I've been feeling great now this last couple of days, and I wish I'd kind of been ready when I got back from this trip to just jump in, because I have felt this before. Like I said, a couple of years ago when I was working, and I traveled a bit for work where I'd go to LA for like 3 days, which is kind of killer because it's an 8 hour time zone jump. It's a 10 hour flight direct from Dublin. You're staying for 3 days, you're kind of getting used to the time, and then you're coming back again and working for a couple of weeks or going on holiday for a couple of weeks. So I think regardless of what you're doing, the where you're going, how long you're going to be there, whatever it is, just have your flare protocol ready. And in fact, what I think I'll do is just when I get back from any sort of travel is just jump straight into my flare protocol. That might actually just be a generally good idea. Um, but that's kind of everything. I didn't want to ramble on too long in this video, although I think I have rambled for a little while. I'd be interested to hear of all of your experience of travel. Like I kind of say in every video, we are all part of this community that we didn't sign up for, that we don't want to be a part of, but we're part of it, whether we like it or not. And it's really valuable to share with other people your experiences, what works for you, because what works for me might not work for you, but what works for you might work for someone else, right? So please, in the comment section, share your thoughts. What are your experience of traveling? What has worked for you? What are, advice you would give to someone else, right? If they're telling you, oh, I've got arthritis, this is my first time traveling with it, what should I do? What would you tell them? And yeah, that's it. Reminder, book is now available. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.